Okay. So we've just had a bit of a conversation about discomfort and what how that shows up in our life and what our choices are around how we view it. Because I think the default for a lot of people, including myself, can be to go into self-judgment whenever challenge arises in life. And more and more, and over the years, I know that each of us have developed our own capacity to be with discomfort and challenge.
Yeah.
And bring love into the space instead of judgment and instead of wrongness. And so that has enabled us to handle greater and greater discomfort and also hold space for other people when they're in their discomfort. So I'm curious to know what your perspective is on that and what nuggets of wisdom you have to share around what you've experienced for yourself and what you've witnessed in others.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is one of those things that I've paid very, very close attention to um, in my own journey, and then facing outward towards clients, friends, other folks. Um, I used to, in my own history, have a really abusive streak of self-judgment in me that was very alive. And when I started to pay attention to that rising up to see what was going on there, what I noticed for me was that this was actually a self-protective mechanism. Like there was a hurt there that was so I was so allergic to feeling that instead of feeling that, what I did was create self-judgment, which created something else to pay attention to. And so it brought me someplace else. And when I look at folks, clients, or whoever having a really difficult time, that seems to be, it's almost like we step onto a landmine, actually, of a feeling that's too overwhelming for us to feel. And so what happens in that moment is we project it outward. So it's about you, Kim. It's about you. You're the one.
Yes.
Or we project it inwards. You're so stupid. How could you da 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 da? And both of those things I think are a move to control, so we don't have to surrender to feeling the pain or the sensation even that's actually there underneath. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, and the more I read about trauma research and things like that, the more I think that the key component to unraveling that is compassionate presence. This can
Yeah.
be compassionate presence that we turn inward toward ourselves. It can be compassionate presence like we offer to those who come and sit with us. And, it's amazing if you even think of just in your own life, those places where you have experienced unexpected kindness or
Mm.
non-judgment in the face of your running commentary, in the face of your self-judgment. Like there's something about that um, interrupts that kind of pattern, right? And allows us to feel, because we're finally safe enough to do it with somebody else there holding us. Um, yeah. So
Yes.
is that what you see? I mean,
Oh, yes, time and again, time and again. And I think the gap that we have in sort of society in general is that whenever there's discomfort or challenge, that we need to fix it, that we need to go into fix it mode. If we're witnessing it in another person, it comes in the form of advice or over consoling them so that they can get out of the discomfort, so that we don't have to feel our own discomfort around them. And
mhm.
what you're describing there is simply even though I say the word simply, it's not necessarily simple to do, but it's just bringing a compassionate, listening presence into the space, because that, as you say, is what gives the person permission to continue to feel it. and to not only continue to feel it, but just completely feel safe in whatever is moving through them, even if it feels uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it's not about necessarily about the words of advice that somebody might give, but just someone saying, it's okay, I've got you, go there.
Absolutely. And I think that the problem is that we think that things like advice or trying to fix things is helpful, but it actually isn't really helpful. Not to actually transform or transmute what is going on, right? So like there is, when we give someone advice, and you know it when someone gives you advice, right? There can be this instant contraction or like resistance that happens,
Oh yeah.
that like digs in as soon as the advice is there, or as soon as someone's trying to fix us, because there's a subtle level of violence in that way of interacting that says this moment or you or whatever's happening is not okay, and we need to make it different, which is a whole different scenario than showing up in the moment and saying, oh, this is what is, now what? Right? Which is, that's a really neutral, but that also, if we can hold that kind of space with someone who is experiencing something and needs extra support, right? There's a sense in which we are saying to them, I trust you to experience this.
Yes. Oh, yes. Beautifully said. Yeah. And it's that empowerment that, like, that is the key. It's like not only is it you're okay to feel what you're feeling, but I trust you that you know that it's okay to feel it. And I will sit here with you while you feel it.
Yeah.
And there's no goal in that. There's no goal for transformation, although that often is the result. But it's just the being in the present moment of whatever is arising and just being with it and learning to sit with it.
Yeah.
Like that there's so much beauty in that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you do that time and time again for yourself and for the people that you work with. And so, yeah, big acknowledgement for you and your capacity. Yeah, because it's a skill that's really needed in the world right now.
Yeah, and I really do think, it's that inner outer match. Like when we can do that inside of ourselves, and we can't always at first, right? This is why we need coaches and companions and spiritual guides, to help like tune us up so that we can turn inwards without that judgment. But at first, I don't think that we actually can by ourselves. I think we need some kind of, and it doesn't even have to be necessarily another person, right? It could be an encounter in nature, or just a sense that like the synchronicity matched up to feel held in that way, for us to like trust ourselves or to trust the moment and to let that do whatever it's doing. And when I can do that for others, they gain that capacity. Like it's just this beautiful reciprocity, right? So that now, like I've sat through some really deeply uncomfortable things for me, right? And there is some truth to that, like breakdown, breakthrough thing they talk about in coaching, right? As like that anything that's rising as a challenge is an opportunity. And the compassionate stance is that we're not always ready. So even if we can just meet it a little bit, we take a layer off. If we can meet it fully, if the things align, either the holding is exquisite enough or our own groundedness allows for it, we can open fully and fully release, unwind whatever that is, that's that trauma or that old content that's living deep inside of us. What I see in my clients is that if that unwinding is deep enough, deeply entrenched issues they've been working on and working on and working on and working on can become irrelevant, which that's pretty miraculous. And we don't do it by trying to do it or fix it. And in my spiritual guidance work, and I know in your coaching stuff too, right? There's this, I don't know, the Buddhists call it backward step, right? In meditation, where you step back into that observer space. But the sense of allowing things to be as they are, getting curious and wondering, like, what? Now what happens here? What do I want here? Like, what's going on here? Can I just be here with what is, right? That solves problems, but backwards, right? It's hard to explain sometimes how the mechanics of it work, but it's like the opening and allowing allows it to undo itself in a way that if we're advising or trying to fix it, like tightens up.
Yes. Oh, yes, yes, yes. And so what I would love to add here is that it's like it loses its charge. It's like the problem doesn't go away, but it just loses its charge, and then it doesn't seem like a problem anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so is that what you sort of is that a
Because
help?
then it's irrelevant. Then it's
Yeah.
irrelevant, right? And that is just a change in perspective. It's just
Yes.
an unhooking, right? When there's nothing for that experience to hook into inside of us anymore. Like it doesn't matter in the same way.
Yeah.
There's a lot of freedom in that.
Oh, that's beautiful. So I just feel like I want to take a moment here for
Yeah.
that to really, really be felt,
Mm-hmm.
because there is a lot of there's a lot of fix it. There's a lot of gotta fix it, gotta fix it, gotta fix it, gotta change it, gotta grow, gotta be this way, gotta be that way. And all of that is really unhelpful when you're at the stage where you don't know how to just be with what is. And so that being with what is just such a important foundational piece
Mm-hmm.
from which to then look at your life and identify, okay, what would I like to be different? Like, it's okay to want your life to be different, but if you can't accept where you are right now and bring love and self-compassion into where you are right now, any change that you try to initiate is going to be done from a place of, oh, I hate my life, it needs to be different, instead of, I love who I am. I might not love where I'm at all the time, but I'm okay with it. And then from that place, start creating change.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just a completely different energy from which to want to start creating new things in life.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And again, like sometimes it's easier on the outside for us to see that we shouldn't try to fix people or, give them advice if they haven't asked for it. Like that's kind of a pushy way of being with someone. But we are really like encouraged or invited to push ourselves around that way all the time. I mean, and you find that within spiritual seeking, you find it in like wellness and transformation, you find it in coaching, you find it with like the motivation to change not coming from a place of centeredness or groundedness or stillness. It comes out of a sense of like lack or perpetual motion, like the seeking, the grasping. I guess that's the piece there. If you're trying to like transform, heal, grow, evolve, all of that from a grasping place, it's woven through with that sense of deficiency. And so we don't get where we think that we're trying to get. It's like letting go into the space of support and fullness, of interconnectedness, and like all of that, like that that brings us to a different, more sustainable or more aligned kind of place than when we're trying to get out of this or we're like trying to make ourselves different, or we're trying to like make reality something different than what it actually is for us in the moment.
Oh, yes. And you know, and I'm just reflecting now on like times in my own life when, especially when you first get started on this, I would say, path to awakening, and wanting to know yourself better and understand yourself better. Like the starting point often is like, oh, there's so much I need to change about myself in order to be enlightened or be fully awakened, you know, whatever that is. And so I know for myself, like there was so much comparison going on, comparison to others, and then judging myself for not being as aware or as awakened or as enlightened. And oh my goodness, it was exhausting, constantly judging myself, constantly comparing myself. And so what I'm hearing in your sharing is it's just the importance of, number one, being gentle, like being really gentle with yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and taking the time to develop our capacity to be kind to ourselves. And that does take effort if you've had like a lifetime of talking to yourself in a negative way or beating yourself up. Like it actually takes effort and discipline, and no one's going to do it for you. No one can do that piece for you. That is like only you can do that for yourself. And so the necessity of that, like I cannot overstate the importance of that.
Yeah. And, you know, I just want to honor to Kim, like Adyashanti is a spiritual teacher that I follow, and he talks about this sense of seeking as like the spiritual impulse, right? Like, that is awakened in us. And then we spend a whole lot of time chasing it around. Good little seekers, right? We're chasing it around. Yeah, me too, right? To come to the end of the seeking. But like, there's something about it that like, I just want to honor that seeking impulse. Like even for me, like what I'm hoping is the ceasing of the seeking, right? That's what I'm like intending for me at this time. And I can see how my seeker arose in a time of trauma to try to make sense out of it because it was too much for me to feel. And I think in my own journey right now, because I would have to say this conversation is well timed because I'm in some very deep personal discomfort right now, trying to sort out. I mean, there is this sense that I can see the seeker energy, the deficiency that it creates, because I'm seeking for something that's everywhere, that's ubiquitous, that's like already here, already done. And so the seeking for it creates the gap that means I can't find it because it's already here, right? But there's a sense in which just seeing that requires so much compassion for me because I can't stop it. Like there's a sense in which I'm watching myself and the impulse rise, and I say, look, the impulse itself is creating the conditions for which I cannot get what I'm wanting. And to watch myself do it and lay it down and do it. Like if I hadn't spent as much time in my own discomfort as I have, there's no way that I could tolerate this process now that I believe is unwinding itself, but I'm witnessing it and I can't make it different than it is. It's like this is like a sitting with things as they are right now. As that impulse rises and as it fades and rises and fades, and the watching of it and trying to stay in that place of compassion instead of like, there, you did it again, you should know better. You know, all those things we can say to ourselves.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, because what I sort of see with that is that, okay, so for you it's the seeker, for somebody else it might be doubt, like just constant self-doubt, or for someone else it might be you just feeling inadequate, like always feeling inadequate. Like there's lots of different ways, versions of that. And it's not about getting rid of that. It's not about like, oh, everything would be wonderful if I just could get rid of my self-doubt. It's like, no. Like have allow that be part of your experience without wanting to push it away or make it wrong. And like circling back to what you were saying at the beginning about the thing losing like its relevance. It's the thing losing its relevance. It's like having it go away is not what makes it lose its relevance.
No,
Even though,
great if it did, but it doesn't. It just amplifies it, right? It just
exactly. Yes. And so, it's just, really like getting curious. There's so much curiosity here about like, and I see your ability to be curious with your experience, even when it's challenging. And that, wow, that is what changes things from contraction. Like instead of being like contracted and closed and only seeing things one way and feeling so stuck and feeling like things are never going to change, like as soon as you start bringing curiosity to that, like that's when things can start to open up a little bit, just bit by bit, little bit here, little bit there. But yeah, it does, like the energy of it does open up.
It's like fairy dust. I think curiosity, sometimes I call it a superpower, but it's like fairy dust, right? Like you sprinkle it on this unsolvable problem and it starts to move, like something starts to shift. And the other thing that occurred to me as I'm talking to you too is like, honestly, I don't want to get this experience that I was talking about, the seeking and trying to like be present to letting go of that and having it let go of me, because it's not just a one-way thing. But it's like that experience, even though it's really, really hard, that is my breadcrumb path towards feeling deeply enough into it that it can unwind. Like, how would I know where to trace this, even if that wasn't guiding me in some way? Like, there's part of me that's like, gross, I don't want to be guided by my pain, but it's like but it's a really sure compass.
Yes. And so, okay, so what comes to me with this is that, so this is, it's like the contrast. It's like this is representing a contrast of something. So if you were to look at the part of you that is seeking, what is the shadow expression of that, and what is the lighter expression of that?
Well, I mean,
or the embodied expression of it versus the shadow expression of it.
I'm going to take an aim here. I'm not sure exactly, like, if I'm quite grasping where to go here, but like, it obviously, as I said before, the seeking itself creates separation, right? So it's almost like a hamster wheel. Like, it just keeps itself busy, but it doesn't actually satisfy the longing, right? Like, and in some ways, the seeking has protected me all this time from feeling some kind of pain that's deep down in there. That's my intuition. That's my impulse. Now,
Yeah.
like, the seeking has come with its own gifts, right? Like, I live an incredibly, I mean, from the center of my life, I'm living my dream life. I have purpose. That's my guide. I can do that in the world. I can get, supported from the world, from just being who I am out there. All of that, like, are benefits that have come from just running the hamster wheel. So it's not like that is bad or that it didn't serve me in some way. It's just, it's come to the end of its usefulness now. Right. And so I'm holding space in my imagination for what it could be like to stop, because my body won't stop yet, or the mechanism that's running won't stop yet. But I'm just holding the space that maybe it could. Maybe it could think about that. And then holding that space of compassion, right? Because I'm not done running, no matter how much I want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Did that answer your
again and again,
question? The shadow and the
yeah, it does. And it also goes further in that it gives another, like, it explains again, like, the importance of the non-judgment and the compassion, like bringing the compassion. So, and it's like, oh, okay, so I see now that almost even asking that question, there's almost an inherent, like, oh, shadow, like we could interpret that as, oh, the shadow is bad and the gift and the light expression of it is good. And it's like, it's not, and that's not what it's about. It's just about using that as information.
Yes.
So it's just information. So, and so, yeah, and then that answer, the answer that you gave was like, you can look at certain parts of your experience and almost get a gauge, you use it as a gauge for where you're at. And then again, you just bring more love and more compassion when you notice that you're in a place of discomfort with the seeking, and you feel like it's not here yet. I don't have it. What I'm longing for isn't here. And yeah, how beautiful that there is that part of you that has the longing. And yeah, I don't know if that thought is fully formed, but
Sure. Well, and I think this speaks to something else too, Kim. Like, in the transformation model that I like have on my website as a free gift, like, what it talks about is the difference between going through transformation from a place of connectedness and going through transformation from a place of disconnection, like just within ourselves, right? So I would say the process of transformation, if I'm resting in a place of disconnection, is that I feel that longing as a kind of angst or a kind of devastation within me, that it's almost like the whole universe is playing a joke on me and it's not very funny, right? But that I can see that I'm seeking, that I can see that it creates exactly the opposite of what I'm aiming for, and I can't stop, right? There could be like this really victimization kind of energy that can go with that if I'm disconnected from myself, right? But again, that is just the contraction. If I can stay in the space, or if I can, because I have my own people, you and other people that I reach out to hold space for me, so that I can stay in that space of connection and just observe with kindness. Oh, there's that seeker again. Oh, she can't stop. She doesn't know that she's creating the whole thing. And even seeing it doesn't stop it. And at some level of connection, like, it's kind of funny. Like, it's kind of absurd right? Like, oh my gosh, like my system is trying to sort out this problem by like perpetually keeping myself in the hamster wheel. Like, what a weird like coping strategy.
Yeah. And oh, how beautiful it is when you can get to that place where you can laugh at yourself and the knots that we can twist ourselves into. And the other thing that I love about that transformation guide that you have is that it speaks to the cycles of life, because, in society, what is glorified is the
Sure.
summer and spring always being in fullness and always feeling good and experience joy and life feels amazing. But the reality is that life isn't like that. And so the transformation guide is permission to be in those contracted, more inward moments,
Yeah.
and having that be okay. And that brings a level of trust into whatever season you are in, which
Right.
I think is really, really important, because if we're not in trust with where we're at, that's when we start to go, oh my God, everything's wrong. The judgment starts to come in, the self-criticism, the comparison, and then boom, we're on the hamster wheel again.
Yep. Yep. Then we got a whole party and it's not a fun one. Like, but it's probably familiar, right? Because these things do arise as coping strategies that, at one point in our very early childhood probably were like helpful to us, actually. And they're not now. They just aren't now.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Ah,
So how does this feel, Kim? Does this feel kind of round and complete to talk about discomfort today?
yeah. It does actually. That does feel like we've come to a place of, yes, that is complete. And also just the beauty of pausing there and just knowing that, it's a moment to pause and give consideration to that. So,
Absolutely.
oh, wow, that was really beautiful. And I just I love these sorts of conversations like this sort of juicy exploration. Wow, where two people can come together and and have the thoughts and the insights weave together and add and build on top of each other. Yeah, that's like really, really a beautiful thing. So yeah, thank you for that opportunity to play in that space.
For sure. Kim, would you just, we didn't actually introduce ourselves. Do you want to just introduce yourself and just talk a little bit about your work? And maybe I'll do that and then we'll be done for our talk
Oh
today.
yeah, yeah, beautiful. Okay, so my name is Kim Wiseman. I'm an intuitive guide. I help people get into safety with what they're feeling. I help people reframe any judgment, wrongness, comparison about where they're actually at in life, so that they can be with themselves in a way that is loving and compassionate. So it's all about just bringing that divine compassion into the space. I do this work because I love helping people, and I also do this work because it's what lights me up the most. It is an opportunity for me to hold a space of unconditional love so that I connect to my own divine source energy in a way that wouldn't be available if I wasn't in the space with another. So yeah, so that is just a beautiful thing to be able to do that with people. And then once people are at a place where they can be with themselves in that way, then start to look at life in a bigger way and say, okay, now that you're okay with who you are, what do you want to create for yourself? What would bring you the most joy and aliveness?
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. And I'm Sarah Cledwyn, and I'm a spiritual guide and healer. I work with people really to help them foster their own direct connection to their deep values. Or if you're a spiritual person, to get that direct connection bolstered to the great mystery that we sometimes call God, or life force energy, or being. Um, so this is lovely. Kim and I met one another working with a coach that we had in common, and um, we have both traveled with one another to hold space for one another, and just what a gift. What a gift.
Yeah. Oh, I echo that. Yeah, you have been an incredible support for me over these years. And I am so, so grateful, because one of my deepest wounds is loneliness. And you have helped me heal that by showing me time and time again that I am not alone, and that I am beautiful and whole and complete, no matter what messiness I am in, no matter what darkness I have like touched upon within myself. So yeah, wow.
Beautiful. And I would say one of the things I have a really difficult time with in the world is really relaxing and opening and letting other people support me. That's a really challenging thing for me. And I have found in the space with you enough safety to let those guards down and really just to be authentic and messy and the whole deal. Because I don't show that very often. And it's, when you hold space for people all the time, you got to have a really good space holder to hold space for you.
Yeah.
And that has been just a delight in our connection for sure.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Oh, I love you so much.
I love you too. Thanks everyone for joining us in this conversation. And wherever this ends up, we'll put contact information for both of us wherever it needs to be for you to find it. If you're interested in reaching out for support, or if you are in need of our services, please be in touch. Take care.
Bye for now.
Bye.